It's amazing how one sentence can change your life forever. I deserve this after everything I've done for you. That was the message waiting for me on my phone the moment I woke up in a hospital bed. Heart pounding, tubes in my arms, monitors beeping like some mechanical orchestra announcing that I had survived by the skin of my teeth. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the glowing screen in stunned silence. My chest still tender from the stent they had installed in my heart 2 days earlier. A single thumbs-up emoji was all I could muster as a reply. No words, just a flat acknowledgement to the woman I'd been married to for 15 years. Dana Doyle, the same woman who had just emptied out every cent we owned. There was nothing left in our joint account. Not $100, not even 50. Zero. The emergency fund I'd carefully saved for decades, the truck maintenance account that kept my semi running, the retirement cushion I thought we'd lean on when we were old. All of it. Vanished. $61,438, $72. And the message, sent with the emotional detachment of someone ordering lunch, read, I deserve this after everything I've done for you. I'm Cameron Doyle, 45 years old, and at that moment, my life split clean in two. The life before the hospital and the life after. I'd spent the past 22 years behind the wheel of a semi-truck. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. It bought the house, put food on the table, and, most importantly, kept Dana in the lifestyle she always seemed to crave, though she never admitted it outright. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. The kind of comfort you build with long hours, countless nights on lonely highways, and cheap diner coffee at 3 a.m. And yet, as I sat in that sterile hospital room, I realized I didn't even know if Dana had visited me while I was unconscious. The doctor had said I flatlined twice. Twice. My heart literally stopped. And Dana, she hadn't called the hospital. She hadn't even left me a voicemail. Just a text with a screenshot of our drained account. People talk about heartbreak like it's a metaphor, but lying there, chest aching, I felt it physically. Dana and I met at a gas station outside Cheyenne 15 years earlier. She was stranded with a flat tire, and I was the guy who stopped to help. She looked at me like I was a hero just because I knew how to use a jack. 6 months later, we were married. At the time, it didn't feel rushed. I was 30, she was 27, old enough to know what we wanted, young enough to still believe in forever. But forever has a funny way of eroding when you live on the road. She hated that I was gone 3 weeks out of 4. I thought the money made up for it. I'd call every night from whatever state I was in. Early on, our conversations lasted an hour. Over the years, those calls got shorter, 15 minutes, then 5, then just texts. Made it to Nashville. All good here. We were drifting apart, and I didn't even notice. Looking back now, the signs were all there. Dana stopped asking when I'd be home. She started taking girls' trips with friends I'd never met. She changed passwords on our accounts for security reasons. She moved money between savings and checking constantly, saying it was for better interest rates. At the time, I trusted her. That's what marriage is, right? Trust. But trust can make you blind. And I was completely blind to what she was planning. The heart attack didn't hit me like a movie moment. There was no dramatic clutching at my chest. It was a slow burn. For weeks, I'd felt a tightness behind my sternum. I told myself it was stress, bad coffee, the 14-hour shifts. Then somewhere outside Omaha, the pain became unbearable. I pulled the truck over and called 911 myself. By the time they airlifted me to Sioux Falls, I was barely conscious. I remember hearing the doctor's voice just before I passed out. We're losing him. Not exactly what you want to hear before the darkness swallows you. 2 days later, I woke up alone. Tubes, machines, a nurse telling me I was lucky to be alive. I didn't feel lucky. The betrayal didn't hit all at once. It unfolded slowly, like waking from anesthesia. I stared at my phone for a long time, rereading Dana's message. I deserve this after everything I've done for you. What had she done for me, exactly? Cooked dinner? Lived in the house my paychecks bought? I wanted to be angry, but all I felt was bone-deep exhaustion. She didn't just take my money. She took my trust, my security, my belief that the life I'd built was worth something. When the doctor asked if someone was picking me up the next day, I lied. Yeah, I said, my wife will be there. But I knew Dana wouldn't be waiting outside those hospital doors. She probably didn't even know what day I was being discharged. Instead, I made a single phone call to my brother Jeff. "Need a favor," I told him. "Name it," he said without hesitation. "I need a place to crash for a few days, and I need you not to tell Dana." There was a long pause. "She doesn't know you're alive?" "Oh, she knows," I said flatly. "She just doesn't know I'm not coming home." Jeff lived on the other side of town. We hadn't spoken in months, not because we were fighting, but because we lived such different lives. He was a construction foreman, divorced twice, raising his teenage daughter Megan on his own. But when I showed up at his door with a duffel bag and hospital discharge papers, he didn't ask questions. He just opened the door and said, "Guest room's yours." I remember him handing me a sandwich that first night. "You should eat," he said. I wasn't hungry. I was thinking about the house I'd refinanced 3 months earlier. Dana had been too busy to come to the signing, so I'd put it in my name alone. She never even asked to see the paperwork. There was also the medical power of attorney I'd updated last year after my buddy Tim had a stroke. Megan, smart kid that she was, a law student, had helped me set it up so that if anything happened to me, Dana wouldn't be able to make unilateral decisions. Funny how those decisions I'd made just in case were now saving me. On my third day at Jeff's place, I got a text from our neighbor, Harold. "Haven't seen you around. Everything okay? Dana's got some guy over. Thought you should know." I stared at that message for a long time. Harold had always been the friendly neighbor. He'd mow his lawn while I was away and wave when I pulled into the driveway after a haul. Now he was warning me about some man at my house. I didn't respond. I just let the information sink in. That same afternoon, Jeff drove me downtown, not to our usual bank branch, where everyone knew Dana and me as a couple, but to the main office. I asked to speak with a fraud specialist. Sitting across from a woman in a crisp suit, I laid everything out. The hospitalization, the drained account, the text message Dana had sent. She listened carefully, her professional mask barely hiding a flicker of pity. "Mr. Doyle, we can start a fraud investigation," she said. "But given that it's a joint account and your wife has equal access, it may be difficult." "I understand," I cut in, "but I want to try." She nodded and began typing. "We'll need hospital records confirming you were unconscious when the withdrawals occurred. And if this becomes a criminal matter, the police will get involved." I met her eyes. "I'm aware." Back at Jeff's house, I made 3 more phone calls. One to my dispatcher at the trucking company, requesting extended medical leave. 2 to the small credit union where I kept a separate business account, one Dana didn't know about. 3 to a lawyer friend of Jeff's named Blake. "I need to know where I stand," I told Blake. "With the house, with the accounts, with everything." He agreed to meet me the next day. That night I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling in Jeff's guest room, thinking about the little signs I'd ignored over the years. Dana had been distant for months, checking her phone under the table, taking trips without me, moving money between accounts. I'd been blind, but not anymore. And as I lay there, one thought crystallized in my mind. She thinks she took everything from me, but maybe, just maybe, she's given me something even more valuable. The morning after Harold's text, I met Blake, the lawyer Jeff recommended. He wasn't flashy, mid-40s, gray at the temples, the kind of guy who wore scuffed leather shoes instead of shiny ones. But the way he studied the documents I laid on the table told me one thing. He understood exactly how serious this was. "You refinanced the house solely in your name 3 months ago," he said, tapping the papers. "That's good. It gives you leverage. But the joint accounts, those are a problem." "She drained every cent," I said. $61,438. Gone. Blake leaned back, steepling his fingers. "If you were unconscious during the withdrawals, we can argue financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. That's strong, but we need hospital records and a timeline." "I can get that," I told him. He nodded. "Good. And we'll start with an emergency freeze on any remaining assets. The sooner we act, the less chance she has to move the money." For the first time since waking up in that hospital bed, I felt a flicker of hope. Blake's words stayed with me as I drove back to Jeff's place. I couldn't stop thinking about how quickly Dana had taken everything. The truth is, financial betrayal isn't rare. I started researching it online late into the night, scrolling through forums and reading case studies. The stories were eerily similar to mine. A wife who emptied her husband's 401k while he was deployed overseas. A partner who quietly refinanced their home and disappeared with the cash. People waking up one morning to find their accounts drained and their credit destroyed. Experts call it financial infidelity, when someone secretly spends, hides, or takes money without their partner's consent. And here's the thing, it's not just about the money. Money can be earned back. What gets stolen is your sense of safety. One woman on a support forum wrote, "I felt like my entire life had been ripped out from under me. I didn't even know who I was married to anymore." I understood exactly what she meant. 2 days later, my neighbor Harold texted again, "Dana's car was gone last night. The guy stayed over." This time the message didn't shock me. It just hardened me. I showed it to Jeff. "Harold again," I said. Jeff frowned. "You think he's just trying to be helpful?" I didn't answer right away. Something about Harold's text bothered me. Why was he so invested? Blake wasted no time. He filed for an emergency freeze on the drained funds and set up a meeting with the bank's fraud department. At the same time, he started pulling Dana's credit reports, bank statements, and property records. "Discovery," he explained. "We lay all the cards on the table. If she's hiding money, we'll find it." I spent hours gathering old financial records from my trucker laptop and the small business account Dana didn't know about. Every detail mattered. Blake's paralegal emailed me a checklist. Copies of all joint bank statements, copies of my hospital records showing incapacitation, documentation of the house refinance, any evidence of Dana's infidelity or financial deception. I stared at that last line for a long time. Infidelity. Did I want proof? During one of my sleepless nights, I stumbled across a documentary about financial abuse in marriages. It told the story of a man named Paul whose wife had been quietly siphoning off money for years. When Paul confronted her, she admitted she'd been planning to leave for over a year. She'd even opened a secret account, depositing amounts just under the reporting threshold, less than $10,000 at a time, to avoid triggering bank alerts. I paused the documentary. That sounded uncomfortably familiar. A week later, Jeff's daughter Megan came by after her law school classes. She was sharp, always had been, and now she was interning at a local credit union. I explained what Blake needed. Any sign that Dana was hiding assets. Megan thought for a moment, then asked, "Do you remember the passwords to your old joint email?" If she opened a new account, the bank may have sent confirmation there. Together, we logged in. Most of the messages were junk, but one caught our eye. New account confirmation, First Savings Bank. It was dated 18 months ago. Megan pulled up the account details using her access at the credit union. "Regular deposits," she said. "Always just under $10,000. Classic structuring to avoid scrutiny. Balance is," she paused, "$127,340. I felt my stomach drop. "That's almost double what she took from the joint account," I said. "She's been planning this for a long time," Megan said quietly. There was one more surprise in the file Megan handed me. An authorized user on Dana's secret account, Harold Jensen, our neighbor. I laughed out loud, not because it was funny, but because the puzzle pieces finally fit. Harold wasn't just the concerned neighbor. He was Dana's partner in this. He'd been sleeping with her under my roof. He'd been the one texting me warnings, probably hoping I'd catch her in the act and lose control. The betrayal cut deeper than I expected. But now I had names. I had proof. When I showed Blake the evidence, he barely blinked. "This is exactly what we needed," he said. "She's hiding assets, lying about her finances, and involved in an affair with a man who's actively benefiting from those hidden funds. This strengthens your case." "What do we do now?" I asked. "Now we move carefully," Blake said. "If we show our hand too soon, they'll run. We need leverage." Blake told me about another case he'd handled. A woman whose husband had drained their retirement accounts and was about to disappear overseas. "Instead of confronting him, we quietly froze every asset we could find," he said. By the time he realized, he was stuck. He couldn't move money, couldn't sell property, couldn't even buy a plane ticket. The lesson was clear. Sometimes the best revenge is patience. I wish I could tell you I felt strong and confident during this time. I didn't. There were nights I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I even wanted to fight. Dana and Harold had humiliated me. My marriage was over. My health was fragile. But every time I felt like giving up, I remembered the hospital bed, the tubes in my arms, and Dana's text message. I deserve this after everything I've done for you. No, she didn't deserve to walk away unscathed. 2 weeks after meeting Blake, we went to court for an emergency hearing about the drained funds. Dana showed up with a high-powered divorce attorney named Patricia Wells. She looked polished, confident. Harold wasn't there, but I could feel his shadow in the room. Judge Harmon was a no-nonsense man with white hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. He listened to both sides, then turned to Wells. Your client withdrew the entirety of the joint accounts while Mr. Doyle was hospitalized for a life-threatening cardiac event. Is that correct? Wells tried to spin it. Dana had acted out of fear, uncertainty, emotional distress, but Judge Harmon wasn't buying it. While he was unconscious from a heart attack, the judge said, incredulous, that's a difficult time to justify financial self-protection. He froze the funds pending further proceedings. It wasn't a full victory, but it was a critical step. As we left the courthouse, Dana tried to approach me. Cameron, please, she said. There's so much you don't understand. I walked past her without a word. Blake patted my shoulder. She's scared now, he said. That's good. But the real bombshell was yet to come. A week later, Blake called me to his office. We found something, he said, sliding a folder across his desk. Inside was a hotel receipt from Minneapolis, dated 3 months earlier, the week I'd been in Seattle for a long haul. The reservation name? Harold Jensen. The room had been paid for with Dana's secret account. This proves the affair, Blake said. Combined with the hidden funds, it paints a very clear picture of intent. I stared at the receipt, hands trembling. They weren't just careless. They were planning a life together, and they thought I was too weak to stop them. The Minneapolis hotel receipt felt like the final puzzle piece. It confirmed what I'd suspected for weeks. Dana and Harold were not only betraying me emotionally and financially, but they were building a future together. Blake studied me carefully as I sat in his office, silent, staring at the receipt. You okay? He asked. I nodded slowly. I'm fine. I'm just done playing defense. Blake leaned forward. Then we make the next move, but it has to be the right one. They're already nervous. We can't give them a reason to disappear with the rest of the money. I thought about the house I had refinanced in my name, the frozen joint funds, the secret account Megan had uncovered. Dana and Harold were backed into a corner, even if they didn't fully realize it yet. It was time to push. A week later, Jeff drove me past my old house. Dana's car was in the driveway. Beside it, I noticed a for sale sign on Harold's lawn. He's cutting and running, Jeff said grimly. Not without Dana, I said. That afternoon, Megan confirmed it. Harold had withdrawn nearly $90,000 from his accounts in cashier's checks 2 days earlier. He was liquidating. I called Blake immediately. We need to act now. If they leave, I'll never get the money back. Blake didn't hesitate. I'll file for an emergency injunction tomorrow morning. It'll freeze all assets and prevent any property sales without court approval. Do it, I said. The next morning, as I was getting dressed for court, my phone buzzed. Dana, we need to talk. Just you and me. No lawyers. I showed the text to Jeff. They're desperate, he said. Good, I replied. I forwarded the message to Blake, who responded in seconds. Blake, don't respond. Injunction hearing is at 2 p.m. At 1:30 p.m., I pulled into the courthouse parking lot. As I stepped out of my car, I saw them. Dana and Harold standing by her SUV, arguing in hushed but heated tones. I stayed far enough away not to be seen and quietly took out my phone. 30 seconds of video captured their body language. Harold gesturing angrily, Dana clutching his arm, clearly in distress. I sent the video to Blake before I even walked through the courthouse doors. Judge Harmon's chambers were smaller than the courtroom. Just the judge, the 2 lawyers, Dana, and me. Harold wasn't allowed inside. He wasn't a party to the divorce proceedings. Blake played the video on the judge's computer. Ms. Wells, the judge said to Dana's attorney, would you care to explain why your client has been declaring under oath that she has no relationship with this neighbor when video evidence clearly shows otherwise? Wells looked shaken. Your Honor, the nature of their relationship isn't relevant to the financial matters at hand. The judge cut her off. It is when financial fraud is being alleged, and when evidence shows that your client and Mr. Jensen have been moving substantial sums of money, that he's selling his property, and that she withdrew funds from joint accounts while her husband was incapacitated. He turned to Dana. Mrs. Doyle, are you planning to leave the state with Mr. Jensen? Dana's face went pale. I don't. Let me rephrase, the judge said. The court has evidence that you and Mr. Jensen are attempting to liquidate assets. This suggests a pattern of deception and intent to flee. I'm issuing an immediate freeze on all assets belonging to both Dana Doyle and Harold Jensen. Neither may leave the county without court permission. Dana made a choke sound. The judge wasn't finished. Given Mr. Doyle's medical condition and the evidence of financial exploitation during his incapacitation, I'm granting temporary exclusive use of the marital home to Mr. Doyle. Mrs. Doyle, you are to vacate the property within 72 hours. Wells tried to argue, but the judge raised a hand. The exploitation of a medically vulnerable spouse is something this court takes very seriously, counselor. Your client is fortunate. I'm not recommending criminal charges at this time. As we left the courthouse, Dana's eyes met mine for the first time in months. For the first time, I saw fear there. Not of me, of consequences. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but Wells grabbed her arm and steered her away. Blake turned to me. This is the turning point, he said. She won't fight as hard now. We'll wrap this up quickly. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. Dana didn't put up a fight after the injunction hearing. Not once Harold disappeared. Yes, he disappeared. Within 2 weeks of the injunction, Harold quietly skipped town. No forwarding address, no goodbyes. He left Dana holding the bag. In the end, the judge awarded me the house, which I sold 6 months later, my truck and all my work equipment, 80% of our savings, what remained after the freeze. Dana got her car, the remaining 20% of our savings, half of the secret account Megan had uncovered, but only after she paid my legal fees from her share. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about reclaiming my life. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I moved into a smaller house closer to Jeff and Megan. I left the trucking life behind. The doctor said my heart couldn't handle the stress anymore and took a job dispatching trucks instead. It's quieter, less money, but I'm home every night. Sometimes when people ask about Dana, I just shake my head. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not even hurt. I'm just done. Here's what I learned. 1, you can't control what other people do. Dana and Harold made their choices. I can't change that. 2, you can control how you respond. For weeks, I wanted revenge, but the real power came from staying calm, building a case, and letting the law do its job. 3, protect yourself. Always. Having my name on the house and a separate business account saved me. Too many people ignore those precautions until it's too late. This isn't just my story. I've since met dozens of people who faced the same kind of betrayal. Some lost everything. Others fought back and rebuilt their lives stronger than before. Like Sarah, a nurse in Nebraska, who discovered her husband had been funneling money to a secret girlfriend. She filed a fraud claim and eventually used the settlement to start a nonprofit for victims of financial abuse. Or Marcus, a father of 3, whose wife drained their accounts while he was hospitalized for a car accident. He rebuilt his credit, paid off debts, and now teaches financial literacy classes at his local community center. These stories matter because they prove one thing. Your life isn't over just because someone tried to take it from you. Last week, I was cleaning out some old boxes and found our wedding album. For a second, I considered throwing it away, but I didn't. I put it back in the box. Because this isn't about erasing the past. It's about learning from it. The heart attack nearly killed me. The betrayal nearly broke me. But I'm still here. And some lessons you only learn the hard way. Some people you lose for good reason. Some chapters end so better ones can begin. And sometimes the life you rebuild is better than the one you lost. If you've ever been betrayed like this, financially, emotionally, or both, I want you to hear me clearly. You are not alone. You are not weak, and you can take your life back. Start by protecting yourself. Talk to someone you trust. Gather evidence quietly. Find professionals who can help. Most importantly, remember that betrayal is not the end. It can be the beginning.